Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday to you. Coming at you with this week's stocks to watch and market overview after an exciting weekend, right? All kinds of good stuff going on. But let's take a look at the upcoming week. It's a shortened holiday week, so it could be interesting. I think we're looking at a potential gap up on Monday, but we'll see how it plays out. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got coming up for the week. We've got the shortened week, but we still have some economic data that can impact the markets. We've got uh, manufacturing PMI and ISM manufacturing on Monday, along with some construction spending. And then we do have one Fed speaker on Tuesday, motor vehicle sales uh, on Tuesday as well. And then we've got ADP employment report, weekly jobless claims, trade deficit, market services PMI, ISM not manufacturing, non-manufacturing, factory orders. And then we've got Thursday off and come back for the big jobs number, right? So that could be an interesting day. This could be a very interesting week, actually. I don't expect there to be a tremendous amount of volume. I think a lot of the the pros are gone, are on vacation, but it could still be a pretty wild week ahead. So be prepared for that. Um, all right, so let's take a look at the individual sectors that caught my attention this weekend going through my scans. And the very first one that caught my attention is IBB. Right now, I've been saying for several weeks actually that this was one of the first sectors to actually roll over when we saw the weakness in the overall markets. This is one of the first ones to roll over after a little triple top there. And I was kind of hoping over the last several weeks that this would be one of the sectors to kind of lead us out. And this one actually, so we popped up a little bit. We came into an area of price resistance. We pulled back, test the 50-day, and we're retesting this 200-day moving average. And I think as I went through a lot of my scans of individual stocks, there are a lot of biotech stocks that look pretty darn compelling. So I think that is a space that we want to keep a close eye on. Now I've got quite a list for the pro members. I've got a few biotech stocks on the list that I'm going to share because I don't have any earnings stocks to share with you this week. So a very light week for in terms of earnings, but do have a couple of biotech names on the list that I'll be sharing this week. So IWM is another sector that had some strength on Friday, looking for potential follow through. This 160 level is going to be an interesting area of potential resistance. We'll see if we can take that out this week. But IWM small caps getting a little bit of action last week. We'll see if we can get some follow through there. And the 160 area is the level to keep an eye on to see if we can maybe take that out. IYT transportation, nice little recovery above the 200-day moving average and the 50-day. Actually, we're kind of testing the 50-day right now. But I think that's a sector that we want to keep an eye on as well. Uh, Tech, right? So I think we're going to see a gap up. Not only, because of the China thing, and some of the tech companies can now start reselling their stuff to Hawaii, and that could be positive for that space. I wouldn't chase anything, but I do think that that is a pretty interesting development, and I think the market's going to like it at least initially. Semiconductors reclaim the 200-day. That was starting to look a little sketchy, and there's a lot of pessimism out in the marketplace, or has been a lot of pessimism about the semis, and I think this news this weekend could give it a lift. Now the question is it already anticipated and priced in? I don't know. We'll have to see how it plays out. But semis, I think there was some pretty bearish sentiment in that space, and that could create a little bit of squeeze action going on there. So keep that in mind. S&P 500 I think we're going to probably look at taking out those all-time highs. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. But we'll see how it plays out. We might get a gap up and then we get a pullback. We'll see. Aerospace and defense has been one of the strongest sectors out there. And we may see some rotation actually out of aerospace and defense into some of these other sectors like biotech. So keep that in mind. I mean, there are still some good looking charts within the aerospace defense sector, but I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a little bit of a pullback in that space as we maybe see some rotation into other areas, right? Home builders actually looking pretty interesting there. That space is looking pretty good. We had KB Homes and Lennar. KB Homes had a nice pop. Lennar got a bit of a pullback last week, but this space is actually in a very interesting area. See if we can take out 42, maybe go to new highs. Building materials, also nice little flag pattern there at an area of potential price resistance, but building materials is looking pretty solid as well. XLE, so energy, has not been a great play, but did get a bit of action last week, and maybe we get some short-term action in energy oil exploration. Worth keeping an eye on the space. But short-term trading opportunity, not really looking at any kind of a long-term turnaround there. I still think that space is really struggling. Financials, nice boost after a bunch of the banks passed their stress test, increased their dividends, increased their share buybacks. So that space is actually looking pretty compelling as well. More swing long-term hold plays. I wouldn't chase anything that's already had a nice move, but maybe look for some type of a pullback entry. Industrials, reclaim the 50-day moving average, but actually looking pretty good there as well. This has been, I have to say, there's a lot of pessimism out there. Everybody's waiting for the pullback, after a 10-year bull market. And, I think people that are going to be underinvested in this market we could be getting near a blow off top, end of the cycle, bull market run. That could be happening in the near future. But I think this market could catch a lot of people that are just not positioned right, including myself. Actually, I'm not positioned right. I probably have more cash on the sidelines than I should have, and I think the market is in a very interesting spot. So a lot of these sectors looking pretty darn good. Industrials actually looking good, right above the 50-day. XLP, consumer staples, typically considered a safety trade, pulled back a little bit last week, and you know what? That could continue. There's some valuations within that space that maybe we see a pullback there, and money rotate into other sectors. Healthcare, I think, is an interesting spot along with the biotechs. We did come up into this trend line, find some resistance and pull back a little bit. Let's see if we can find some support for a bounce. Maybe we look closer to the 200-day moving average, see if we can get a bounce there. But healthcare is also looking pretty darn good. Consumer discretionary, potential double top, but we are managing to hold on to the 50-day moving average. And maybe we're looking at potentially going and making a new higher high. We'll see. Oil and exploration, double bottom formation did kind of hold up. Like I said, energy names could be an interesting spot. Maybe we see a short-term trading opportunity there. And then retail, coming up to the 50-day moving average, declining. My least favorite sector, but Um, you know, actually, for me, I'm not. I have nothing. I'm really not looking at anything in retail, but it looks like maybe we're going to come up and test that 50 day. I wouldn't be surprised if they find that as resistance there. Okay, so give me a minute. Let me get my list of stocks to watch for next week. All right, so before I get going on the list of stocks to watch for trading and investing, let's take a look real quick at the T2107 and T2108. This is the amount of stocks, percentage of stocks over the 200 day and the percentage of stocks over the 40 day. And what we can see is that we are not overbought and we're not oversold, but we're kind of moving higher, right? So we could be heading up into that. If we get into the 70 and over area, then that is a time when you look to take some off the table, lock in some profits, and it actually kind of looks like we're heading that direction. So both the T2107 and T2108, they're not extreme, which means we still could have some upside. But when we get into those higher areas that over 70, I mean this thing can stay up in the 80s and 90s. T2108, T2107, both of them. When we get to those levels, it's probably a good idea to lock some gains. So keep that in mind. All right, so one of the things, actually, there are two sectors that kind of stood out at me this weekend through my scans. One was biotech. The other is shippers. Shippers were kind of interesting too. I imagine shippers with China buying agricultural products from us, boatloads. Maybe we see some positive action in the shippers. So keep that sector in mind as well. All right, so let's take a look at this little list here. I pulled some off of the list that I'll be sharing with the pro members. But CRMD, biotech name, 20.9 million shares in the float. Got some volume on Friday, and I think a lot of that has to do with Russell rebalancing and stuff like that. But nice little pop on Friday, right up into the $9 holla. I love those round number rolls. So we've got a pretty small float here. Biotech space, breaking over this trend line, testing a nice round number, close near the high of the day. Maybe you get a red to green type move in this name. Pull back to 825, 850 or so. Maybe put your stop, just below 760 or so. And looking for a move. I'm thinking somewhere up into the maybe the $10 holla range, right? Just a red to green day trading opportunity is really what I'm looking for in CRMD. I'm not sure if they've got, they joined the Russell 2000. So I'm not sure if they have any kind of catalyst coming up. You want to go to Biopharm Catalyst and look and see if they've got anything that may be impacting the stock, a near-term catalyst, but worth keeping an eye on CRMD after recent reverse split, small float, and recent reverse splits have been kind of in fuego lately, right? So MCRB, so not a good looking chart at all. But this thing has gotten pretty beaten up, got out of the lower Bollinger Band, popped back up in there. Maybe just looking for a day trading opportunity again in this one, right? So a red to green type move. Maybe you pull back to $3. That acts as support for a bounce. You get a pop up into the 50-day moving average, somewhere around $4. Just a trading opportunity, right? 35 million shares in the float. I do not know if these guys have any kind of catalyst that approaching. Just looking for a quick hit trade opportunity in MCRB. GMS. So this is a building materials play. This has got 1.6 million shares in the float. Very tiny float. Traded the full float on Friday. It looks like they reported good earnings, and that was the catalyst for this move. So, I'm looking at it and thinking to myself, a pullback to $20, a place where we had some price resistance. this could be an area of opportunity to take it for a higher risk swing because of the fact that it is such a small float, right? But a pullback to say 20 bucks, 1950 or so could be an interesting spot to take it for a bounce. It's already had a 2-day run. Maybe you get a red to green, pull back to 21 bucks or so. Maybe we get a 3-day run out of this and it pops up to 23. Could be a trading opportunity with volume. Could be a higher risk swing on a pullback to an area of potential price support. 19.25, 19 bucks. You got a potential golden cross happening. You got the 50-day crossing above the 200-day. Like I said, this thing is super thin, right? Super thin, 1.6 million shares in the float. But you've had some insider buying in the, looks like the $16 range. It's an interesting thought, maybe for a day trading opportunity, possibly for a swing on a pullback to an area of price support. But pretty nice pop on Friday, maybe continuation there. GRTS, another biotech name. Got a little bit of a pop on Friday, a little bit of volume, only has 7.5 million shares in the float. Managed to close above the 50-day moving average. It is at an area of potential price resistance. This $11 area. There's a gap to fill up to about $12.25. Stochastic starting to curl up. I think it's worth keeping an eye on as a small, keep in mind it is a small float, but a potential trading opportunity, not one that I would look to hold overnight. But break over 1150 with some conviction. Maybe you get a nice scalp. NSTG. So this one is got 1 million shares in the float. Traded 2.6 million shares on Friday, and it's flirting with all-time highs. All-time highs. We're looking at blue sky territory here. Higher risk, of course, right? Because of the small float, because of the fact that it is a biotech. I don't know what they've got coming up, but this thing is flirting with all-time highs. Maybe you get a break over 31 bucks with conviction. Could be a trading opportunity, scalp opportunity there. Worth keeping an eye on NSTG. And you know what? Before I go any further, hold on one second. One thing I forgot about recently is that this TC2000 has not been very accurate with their floats. So I just want to make sure. Yeah, see, you know what? Very disappointing. All right, so Yahoo Finance is actually showing that the float on NSTG is 38 million shares, not 1 million shares. So kind of disregard what I just said. Very disappointed with this TC2000 lately. Still, 38 million shares is not 1 million shares. It's not super tiny, but let's see. They've got about 3% short interest on this. They got 142 million in cash, 90 million in debt. They're burning through 64 million. They don't need to raise cash. And the fact that it's no longer a 1 million float kind of changes my perception on this trade. But still, it's got an interesting look, right? If it takes out 31 bucks with conviction, could get a scalp opportunity out of there. IOVA. Testing all-time high. Is it all-time highs? Hold on, let me make sure. No, it's not all-time highs, but testing highs. Nice little flag pattern there. Stochastic starting to curl up. Now this is the second day of the move, so you might get a red to green third day move. Just looking for a quick trade in IOVA, but worth keeping an eye on this one. Let me see where we might have some resistance. Look at that weekly. Man. I don't see, this one's kind of got blue skies going on too. Now I just want to make sure See what the float is on IOVA. And we've got about 100 million shares, it looks like, in the float on IOVA. So not a thin stock, but this could be a red to green day trading opportunity as well. And then I've got a big thick stock here, and this is really more of a swing or long-term hold. And I kind of expect casinos to do okay off of, you know, the restarted negotiations with China and the U.S., right? Nice pattern here. We've got a potential golden cross with the 50 trying to cross above the 200-day. And there was a huge insider buy in this price range recently. So this is more of a swing or long-term hold consideration. It is a thicker stock, 440 million shares in the float. You got a potential flat top breakout going on there. Nice little, you know, shorter term flag pattern. You got a potential golden cross. I think this is more of a long-term hold, more of an investment than a day trade, but worth keeping an eye on. MGM actually kind of look like we've got a trend line break here, right? We kind of broke above this trend line. We've been consolidating right below the $29 holla. Definitely more of a long-term hold, but I think one to keep an eye on. And that's it. That's my list for this video. I'll have a full list of stocks to watch for the pro members out in about 20 minutes or so. It could be a very interesting week. Don't chase. Make sure you have a plan. I got to tell you, there are a lot of good-looking charts out there, and it could be very, very interesting. We could just continue to grind higher and disappoint a lot of the pessimists out there. So we'll see what happens. You know, was this already anticipated? Maybe we get a gap up and a pullback. I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Have to just pay attention to the price action. But good luck trading out there. And if you're not trading this week, enjoy your vacation. And we'll see you all when you get back. All right. Good luck trading this week. Talk to you later. Bye.